Hey guys, this is the WalterFootball.com After Dark show for April 30th, 2025. We're going to do our 2025 NFL draft grades today. We're joined by Charlie Campbell. So different takes on the draft grades. Plus, I've had some time to think about the grades. I might have some different opinions on it. And then also going to get to Shedeur Sanders. He obviously fell to round 5. Many thought he'd go in the first round, including Mel Kiper. And then when he fell out of day 2, it became a national story. So we'll get into all that as well. So before we begin, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. As always, I'm wearing something from the merch store. It is our Ken Griffin Lied t-shirt. I cannot be sued for that because there are a million Ken Griffins out there, and I just have to prove that one of them lied, which shouldn't be too difficult to do. But yeah, you can get that as well as many other shirts at the Walter Football merch store. We have a 20% off sale. So definitely take advantage of that because sometimes it disappears. And I always say when it's gone, I'm like, you guys should wait to get your shorts until we have a 20% off sale. But that's what we have now. You can get in here. You can change the colors and stuff. They have lots of options. We have our apron. We have some mugs. I'm going to add some stuff during the summer. So look out for that. Also, please consider buying my book. It is called Jerks of the College Years. This is my third book, but it's the most recent one. I made fun of people I saw at college. So I had a lot of fun writing it. I think you guys have a lot of fun reading it, so definitely check that out if you want to help support us. And best way is super chats, super stickers. That really is the best way to do it because YouTube ads pay us nothing. So whatever you guys give us in super chats is just really appreciated. Also, I mean, just to run through everyone who's helped. We've had Slew, John Sanders, DJanon. You guys have been so great recently. And then before that, we had the Boss, Armac, Karmic, Cam Eagle, and some others. So I just really want to thank you guys for helping support the show. All right, we are joined by the best NFL draft analyst on the planet, or even, dare I say, the universe. It is Charlie Campbell, our senior NFL draft analyst at WalterFootball.com. Charlie, how's it going, and how's your entire 2025 NFL draft experience?
Oh man, I'm doing all right. Still feel like a zombie. Still have to catch up on sleep. But kind of working way back. But yeah, it was a very interesting draft. Definitely, kind of. I guess you could say feeling a little bit of wanting more, in some ways because it just it just didn't it had a different feel than other drafts to me, just in terms of this draft class, the talent, the quarterbacks, and it was difficult to predict. And then we had this trade at the top that really kind of set things awry, prediction wise. But overall, it was entertaining and definitely it was an exciting draft to watch.
Yeah, it was weird. There was a trade right at the beginning, and then there wasn't another trade until 25. And we know some teams are trying to trade down. It was reported by some in the media. I know Cincinnati was trying to trade down. Nothing was going on because no one wanted to move up to these prospects. And yeah, it was definitely a different feel. I feel like this whole offseason was a different feel. Like free agency.
I agree.
Too. Yeah, free agency was so boring. Like, the first day we had like the Tunsil trade, we had Metcalf traded. I think that was a little bit beforehand, but still. And we had a couple of crazy moves like Sam Darnold signed for $100 million. But then like the second day, like nothing really happened. A couple of decent signings, but nothing crazy. And I kept thinking like, okay, all right, when's the next big move? And it just never happened. It just like waited until the end of the week, and like by Friday there was like nothing happening at free agency. So that's what this draft felt like too. Like you're right, this whole offseason was a little underwhelming. It was still fun though. I still had a good time, and I definitely agree. Feeling like a zombie. I told you this before we started recording. My son threw up in his bed on Saturday night when I was typing up the team grades and stuff, and so I had to clean it up myself. And so I went to bed at like 6 a.m. That's when I usually go to bed. And I told my wife upon going to bed, I'm like, hey, Conrad throw up. And so this is 6:10 a.m. I just fall asleep right away. Like 7 a.m. my wife comes in. She's like, where are the sheets? And I'm like, oh man, why do you have to wake me up for this? I'm so tired. And like I washed the sheets. I told you. She's like, oh, okay, sorry. I'm like you couldn't wait like 3 hours until I woke up again. So yeah, that was pretty brutal, but yeah, I feel the same way. I'm still tired. I fell asleep reading to my son tonight. So that's where we are right now, but I'm sure we will recover in the coming days. I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
well, we'll be back amongst the living before long. The zombie status will
yeah,
be shaken off, but
exactly.
but
Yeah,
we'll get there.
yeah, we need some like holy water or something, something to help cure us. Bagger says, "I'd love to know how Willie Johnson slid out of the draft completely. I've seen him mocked in the first round. Yeah, yeah, no Willie Johnson. He wasn't drafted at all. Will Johnson was drafted. Willie Johnson, on the other hand, was not. That was a shout out to Grok doing the mock draft. You guys forgot or didn't know, as we had a question here. So I asked Grok to make a mock draft for us, and his first draft, the second draft was actually pretty good. First draft, it gave Will Johnson to the Bengals and then Willie Johnson to the Redskins. I'm like, come on, man, like how can you screw that up? So yeah, no Willie Johnson in this draft, only Will Johnson in the second round. So he was someone who fell. Obviously, the big guy who fell was Shedeur Sanders. And this story became so big that my wife even asked me about it. My wife, who does not know, like she knows very little about football. When I first met her, she knew nothing. Like she looked at the TV and she said, "Oh, what's that yellow line?" Like that's how little she knows football. And yet she asked me, she's like, what happened to that Sanders guy? Why didn't he go first? And so like, my parents are also talking about it. It's definitely something that transcended football. And I mean, well, first of all, like before we get into like why he slid, where did you expect him to go? I mean, in your mock draft, you had him in the second round, but like I don't know if like you thought like maybe he would fall further in that. Like where did you think like he could possibly fall?
I thought he would fall probably to the second round. I thought there was a chance someone would trade back into the first for him, but I thought good chance he'd fall to the second round and maybe like kind of mid to late to max, and then I didn't think he would fall well into round three, and then of course, obviously, to Saturday, day three, and then fall as low as he did on day three. So I definitely was not expecting him to go high, but and I didn't have him in the first round, and so I thought a fall would happen, and but I just did not see it going as long as it did. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, both of us had him a 33 in our mock drafts to the Browns, and I said this repeatedly that during the combine, around when the combine happened, I showed my mock draft to a scout on an NFC team, and this is a team that has a quarterback, so it's not like they were just kind of like BSing, and it's just a scout anyway, and it's a friend, so there's no reason for this person to lie. And I wanted to read the quote. I posted this on Twitter. But for those of you who haven't heard it, so after day two, I reached out to this guy again and I asked him, like, are you surprised he fell out day two? And he says, definitely surprised. We thought a few teams may have had a round two grade on him. And then he says, we had him as a day three guy all along. Most guys I talked to agree. Decent college player, good accuracy, but average arm strength and average athleticism. Doesn't always see it, holds the ball too long. There was a report last night he bombed interviews. Says he came across as arrogant or a diva. I don't know if that's true. We didn't get any arrogant vibes from him. We just didn't think he was that good. Now, every interview is going to be different. This is a good team, so he may have been on better behavior. I was on the Play Like a Jet podcast with Scott Mason, and he brought up the point. He's like, if this is a good team, he probably was behaving well, and like. And the reports that he was acting like very poorly in other interviews may be true too. So like both things could be correct. But yeah, that's where I stood. Like I thought he would go day two. And then the fact that he fell like very far, if he was like just behaving poorly in the interviews, then it's not a surprise that he fell. So you have the Why the Slide series. This is going to be our featured article tomorrow. So I mean, why don't you tell us, like, because I talked to one person, I'm sure you talked to like half the league. So you tell us like why Shador Sanders slid in the 2025 NFL draft.
Well, it just kind of was a combination of a couple factors. The first one, I've heard is just, part A, there just weren't enough teams that viewed him as a true first rounder starter, like the scout you spoke with, where They just did not see an elite skill set. There wasn't a special arm. There wasn't special athleticism. He was athletic. He was accurate. He was tough, but he showed a lot of toughness. But he held the ball too long, took too many bad sacks. So he didn't cause a team to basically fall in love with him enough to take him in the first round. And then from there, and talking with people, you get into the second round, and teams are going for a different direction. And then you get into the portion of the draft where teams are drafting backup grade players with a grade of being a backup in the NFL. And that starts kicking in, third round into the mid rounds. And teams just don't want to have a backup quarterback that's going to, be a distraction in terms of the media attention, like because of for example, what happened with Tim Tebow. The media attention that just comes with him. Teams don't want that for backup players, especially at quarterback. That could kind of just cause an insidiousness for a quarterback controversy, which is never good for a team. So I think that there were just too many teams that didn't want to deal with that as a backup, even though Shedeur could be coming in as a better backup than what they have as their number two, or should be in the near future. So I think it was just that, and like I had one team guy say, they don't want to, they didn't want to have to deal with Dion criticizing the teammates around him for poor play, or criticizing coaches for their decisions or not playing him, and criticizing coaches. And he has a large, obviously, media presence and persona. So it was just kind of a combination of the skill set and then just the baggage that comes with them, that kind of, I think, piled together into a perfect storm for why he slid.
Where would you have taken him if you were just GM of a team? Would you have bad passed him too because of that stuff, or would you have taken a shot on him like earlier?
Well, see, it depends on who. I mean, if I were say Cleveland, who ended up taking him, I would have taken him instead of Dylan Gabriel at pick 94. To me, that was just a wasted pick. So at least I think Shedeur has starter upside. I don't think he's gonna. I don't think you can look at him and say he has the upside to be, Pat Mahomes elite, but I think you could say that he's Geno Smith potential, and Geno Smith has turned into a starter that's not, probably mid-level in the league. And if you put enough talent around him, you could win. And I mean, he took a team to the playoffs, a couple years ago. So I think he's that caliber of quarterback. So to me, if I were the Browns, I would have taken him at pick 94 instead of where they took him. And then, aside from that, once you got into, say, the fifth round, if I were a team, or not even the fifth round, the fourth round, looking at, say, the Saints, they took Danny Stutzman at pick 112, which I think was a nice selection. But then they had another pick late in the fourth round, and he's still there. And if I'm the Saints, I would have taken him and just let him and Tyler Shough compete for it. Because then you have two young guys, and let them compete, and you have a possibility if one gets hurt. Shuck's had a ton of injuries in his career. Now you have another possible long-term starter for only a pick at 131 in the draft. So, I think it varies by team, but I think for other teams, if you're Chicago and you think Shedeur has a backup grade, I don't think it makes sense to have him as the backup behind Caleb Williams. So I wouldn't have taken him at pick 132 when the Bears took a Ruben Hypolite, So I think that it kind of varies by team, but overall, I think once you get into those kind of level picks, it's hard to say that some of these teams that they made the right decision passing on them when they don't have great quarterback situations.
So
Even
don't get yeah.
Jacksonville,
Good,
even Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence has been going the wrong direction, and he's been getting hurt a lot. So I mean, there's just a lot of teams. I think it would have made sense for them to have taken Shedeur in that late third, fourth round once that surprising slide was happening.
Yeah,
The
but Charlie,
Rams, I mean,
yeah,
could go all day.
Yeah, but Charlie, the Jaguars have Nick Mullins and John Wolford. How dare you say they need a better backup? No, I agree. The Dylan Gabriel pick was absurd, absolutely absurd. I didn't have him anywhere close to the third round. I didn't think he had an NFL skill set. He's like 5'10". Like what are the Browns doing here? I gave that grade a million to the millionth power. I don't think like that you can get even worse than that. So yeah, flip saying topics has been discussed so much, hard to have a new take on it. Yeah, but Charlie talks to more than anyone, like more people than anyone around the league. So just I thought it'd be definitely beneficial to get his take on it. Let's see here. Flip says I think the Cleveland owner forced them to take Sanders, but taking two quarterbacks is an interesting strategy. Well, it's been done before. Look, I mean, the Redskins once upon a time took Robert Griffin, and then they took Kirk Cousins, and that sort of worked. Like the Cousins pick worked out, but Griffin didn't, which is weird. But like they were criticized when they did it. I remember like the PTI guys yelling at them for taking Kirk Cousins when they had Griffin in the same draft. But I mean, if you like guys enough, you can definitely take two quarterbacks. The one quarterback where the one draft where the Browns took Tim Couch first overall, they also took Spurgeon Wynn in the 6th round. So. It has been done, so I don't. I mean, it's not very common,
It's
but
a backup. It's a backup grade player.
right.
So I don't think there's anything that wrong with it. Generally.
Exactly. Okay, so Pollyanna, how accurate were your mock drafts in comparison to others? I didn't grade them yet. I know Charlie had 10 picks correct. I had 9. I don't know how that matched up with people, but. I mean, every mock draft was thrown off by that Jaguars trade heading up to 2. I mean, that screwed everything up. Some people did luck into it. I mean, like people who had Genty not thinking the Jaguars who were going to take him at 5 had they not trade up, like they lucked into a correct pick there. But for the most part, like it's weird. If you were in the know, then like your top 10 got screwed up, like all messed up. But Charlie got a bunch of picks correct as we got out of the top 10. I did as well, but Charlie had more correct than I did. So, kudos to him. 10 picks in a weird draft is pretty impressive. Again, I don't know how everyone else did. I'm going to do that later in the week, but I imagine it's going to be pretty close to the top. I don't know. Did you get to look at anyone else's mock draft? Like, off the top of my head, I can't think of like anyone who's super accurate.
No, I think I want to say I think Daniel Jeremiah had like 8 correct. I think Eric at home from NFL.com, I want to say he had like 6 or 7. So I think we, considering what happened in the draft, I think we did well. I think we did a good job of, many years I've done well high and I haven't done as well later in the first round. That's when it gets more difficult to predict. And this year we both had I think like 6 hits in the back half of the first round. So I'm pretty pleased with that because that's that's kind of a more challenging part to forecast.
Yeah, and the draft props too. So unfortunately, the Genty to Jaguars, Membu to the Raiders, that all failed. Jalen Walker to the Panthers. Those are 3 bets that all failed. And I remember coming on Thursday night, someone I can't remember who it was in chat. Someone asked me like, how much did you lose on draft props? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe $300, $400 or something, $500 maybe. And after the show, I checked and I won like $1,200, like won 12 units. And then with Shedeur going to the Browns, we actually won 18.75 units on the year. So given that like that got screwed up, like I'll definitely take that. And like we would have had like a monster year if the stupid trade didn't happen, which we'll get to in a
Yeah.
second. Mike says, yes, thanks, Charlie and Walt, for all your hard work leading up to the draft. I really enjoyed draft weekend, in large part because of all the pre-draft info dialogue you put out. Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you so
Thanks,
much
Mike.
for always being on here. I think Mike really appreciate it. So why did the Panthers end up taking Tedero McMillan? It's an interesting question because everyone thought they're going to take Jalen Walker, not just you. I mean, like other people who've been very reliable in Panthers reporting all thought they're going to take Jalen Walker. So did you get any intel on like why they maybe switched to McMillan?
Not per se for anything wrong. I think that they just became more enamored with kind of doing more for Bryce Young and then hitting the D line on day 2. But I mean, it was a surprise to people with the team because I know people with the team, scouts thought for sure they were taking Jalen Walker at 8. So Dan Morgan and Dave Canales kept things close to the vest there. And I mean, I'm just theorizing here. I haven't been told this, but part of me wonders, about ownership there, because David Tepper is a very meddlesome owner, and it wouldn't shock me at all if he hears Canales talking about, well, yeah, McMillan, reminds me some of Mike Evans in Tampa, and I could see where that could make an impression on Tepper, and Tepper saying, well, if this guy's like Mike Evans, we need to take him, and then we can add more to the defense in the years to come and stuff. So part of me wonders, and watching it just looked, he looked so involved when they made that call and everything. It just, I feel like there could be something to that.
You know what? It 100% is because this guy was so embarrassed by Bryce Young because
Right.
the coaching staff wanted CJ Stroud, and then he overrode them because somehow he thought he knew more than them. He wanted Bryce Young, and he was so humiliated by it. Like he needs this to work out. Like he needs Bryce Young to have every single opportunity possible to work out. So they like you saying that, like just 100%. It was definitely Dave Tepper meddling. We'll see if it works. It didn't work the first time. We'll see if it works the second time. Ben's chiming in here. Hey, Ben, how's it going? He says, thanks, Charlie, for all your hard work and info against so much clutch rumors. As always, a pity some got screwed by that early trade. Yeah. Well, why don't we get into that trade? So usually what we do here on the NFL draft grade show with Charlie, we will go in fours. We'll look at, like picks 1 to 4, 5 through 8, etc., and then talk about best picks and worst picks. There could be multiple if you want. But I think for the first 4, we've been talking about Titans taking Cam Ward, Giants taking Abdul Carter, and the Patriots taking Will Campbell so often that there's no reason to rehash it. But we can just delve into how we felt about the Jaguars trade. Because the Jaguars traded first and second round picks and the number 5 pick and just some other stuff to move up from 5 to 2 to take Travis Hunter. It's I thought pretty surprising. I mean, it was reported pretty often on draft day, but like I feel like the trades that are reported almost never happen. It's like the ones that happen come out of the blue, but like this one was definitely reported a lot, and then it did happen. So, what are your thoughts on this trade? Like, do you think the Jaguars made the correct move here, or what? What do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, for me personally, I think that this was a mistake on their part, and this is one reason why they continue to pick highly most years of their existence. And I think, giving up pick 5 and pick 36 was bad enough, but to give up next year's first round pick is just atrocious. I mean, that really easily could be another top 10 pick because their defense is not good. I really, don't think the offense is well-rounded unit to carry the water for the team either. So I think they gave up way too much for one player or for a non-quarterback. It makes no sense to me. I mean, Travis Hunter is going to have to be superhuman. I mean, he's a great prospect. I'm not saying that he's not a great player. I'm just saying he's going to have to be superhuman and basically be a Pro Bowl wide receiver and a Pro Bowl cornerback to give them adequate value. Because you think about, you could have had, you basically traded Travis Hunter for Ashton GNT. You could have had, say, pick 36, you could have had like Luther Burden and then a potential, first round starter last year. So you took three starters and turned them into a hybrid player who's trying to do something that really hasn't been done, playing both ways in a long time, in recent eras. So the other guys that did that, it was all kind of gadgetry, with Deion Sanders and Woodson and Chris Gamble and whatnot. It wasn't down in, down out like he's claiming he's going to do and wants to do, and they're saying. So I just think it was a bad trade. I think they gave up way too much. I think it's bad team building, and like someone said, it does reek of the Khans. I've met Tony Khan. He's a nice guy, and I've heard that the Khans are nice to the staff there, all the turnover staff they've had, but I don't think they make great football decisions. And I think a lot of their hires, like Trent Baalke, I can't imagine what possessed them to ever hire him as GM. Now they're dealing with the years of his drafting around Trevor Lawrence. And now another regime, I think, kind of overshot in their first draft, and now they're without a first round pick next year. So I just think they gave up way too much, and I'm not optimistic it'll work out.
It was draft day of the movie. Like it came to life. And you had the Browns GM bullying a young Jaguars GM, be like, hey, you have to make this trade. You have to do it because you're a young guy. And then it happened. It made no sense, I thought. Just not even on the trade value chart. If you look at it, the difference between 2 and 5 is 900 points. A second round pick is about 500-ish. So you need 400 more points. Okay, you trade next year's second. Okay, that probably right. You downgrade it like a couple hundred points or so. That's 300. So you need 200 more points. So maybe you trade like a fourth rounder. I don't know if that works out, but like giving up next year's first round pick seems insane to me. For a player, you don't really know what you're going to get out of. Like this is like if it's for a quarterback, sure, you absolutely do it. But for a receiver / cornerback, and like I've heard the argument saying that like they basically got two players because they got an elite receiver, they got an elite cornerback, and I'm like, maybe, but like we have not seen this, and right. I don't know if it's gonna happen because like think about it this way. Okay, he plays receiver almost every down, right? Then he has to play quarterback, and so he has to study film on this. He has to get ready, and this is not like he's going against Cincinnati receivers, not the Bengals, but Cincinnati Bearcats, SMU right. receivers, Central Florida receivers. Like, no offense to those schools, they don't have a Nico Collins that he's going to go up against twice per year. Like, he has to prepare for that. Calvin Ridley, who's not as great as Nico, but still a really good receiver. Like, he's going to have to go against him twice per year. Michael Pittman, twice per year. Like, and then obviously the great receivers outside of the division. Like, that's really difficult to do. I don't know if that's going to happen. And if he does, then if he's a Pro Bowl receiver and a Pro Bowl cornerback, then you can say, yeah, it panned out. But like, I don't know, the odds of that happening seem kind of low. Like I think he could be a Pro Bowler on one side of the ball, but two sides of the ball just seems very, very difficult. I don't like it. I really don't like giving up the first round pick, as I said. Just way too much. They definitely lost on the trade value chart, and maybe next time don't hire a 34-year-old GM. I don't know. It's very draft day. I even joked on the draft blog. I'm like, yeah, the Browns GM just made a good trade. Now he's going to have to scatter his dad's ashes. And oh, by the way, his girlfriend's pregnant. Hooray! So
yeah. And the thing is, in some ways, I mean, the Carolina's trade for Bryce Young. I mean, it's like they didn't learn from that. Where that pick ended up next year's one ended up becoming the number one overall pick in the draft. So I know they probably don't think they're going to be picking that high, but neither did Carolina when they made that trade. And they did that for a quarterback. I think it's a little more understandable, whereas Jacksonville, you don't know how high that pick could be. Trevor Lawrence could get hurt early in the season, and then they don't win a game the rest of the year. Wolford and Nick Mullins at quarterback. So that could be a very, very high pick, and that they're missing out on maybe a quarterback that has more durability, and then they could have traded Trevor Lawrence to someone else and gotten draft capital there. So I just think it was giving up next year's first round pick was just absolutely horrible decision making by the Jags. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, it's a great point about Lawrence potentially going down because the first round pick for a good team or a potentially good team is a hedge because if you lose Lawrence early, at least like this is kind of like what the Spurs did with Tim Duncan. Like they were a good team with David Robinson, but Robinson got hurt, and then they were an awful team and they got the number one pick and they got Tim Duncan and like the rest is history there. Same thing with the Jaguars. Like if Lawrence goes down like week 1, week 2, they're probably going to be one of the worst teams in the league again. And that's going to be the number 1 overall pick or maybe 2 or 3. And let's just say if it is the number 1 overall pick, like they miss out on Arch Manning or let's be real here. If the Jaguars are number 1, the Arch probably goes back to school, but maybe like Garrett Nussmeier. Still like potential franchise quarterback or, if you want to keep Lawrence, you trade the number 1 pick for King's ransom and then you get a lot of draft capital off of that. So, yeah, I mean, like the Browns could end up with having the number 1 pick, and Arch Manning's not going to come after Cleveland either. But still, they're going to be able to trade that pick for a lot as well. I think definitely a huge win for the Browns. Usually, we don't say that a lot that the Browns won something, but they definitely won this trade.
Yep, I agree, 100%.
Flip saying I'm a Jags fan. The trade value is pretty bad, but I do think Hunter is a special player. Yeah, look, I mean, he could. I think he's going to be a Pro Bowler on one side of the ball. I don't know if you think he's going to be Pro Bowler on both sides of the ball. I'd be surprised if that happens. I don't think it's impossible, but I do think it's very unlikely. So it just for non-quarterback again, if you do this for a quarterback, it definitely makes sense. But for non-quarterback, I would never give up a first round pick in the future for non-quarterback.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Drop off from 2 to 5 this year is way bigger than in most years as one important factor. I mean, look, Hunter is a great player. Like Mason Graham could easily be a Pro Bowler, perennial Pro Bowler too. I don't think the gap is that big. Do you? Yeah. What do you think?
No, or GNT. I mean, I think GNT, even though they have running backs who've had some moments of looking like okay, I think Genty would have done more to help Trevor Lawrence and that massive contract you invested in him than Travis Hunter will. And I think giving Lawrence a running game and better down and distance situations, and instead of having to throw the ball 40 sometimes, maybe he only has to throw 25 to 30. That's less hits. That's just gonna protect him more. So. Yeah, I definitely think that they gave up way too much. Hunter's a great player, but I wouldn't have done it. I think there's other moves that could have improved the team and made them better for years to come.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. It's the kind of two organizations that haven't really made great moves, but one definitely took advantage of the other. John saying the Browns just signed Rodgers. I assume it's like not he didn't say Aaron Rodgers, could be like Armani Rodgers or some weird Rodgers guy. Jaquiz Rodgers coming out from retirement or something. All right, let's get to the rest of the draft. So we're gonna go in fours here. So at number 5, the Browns traded down and took Mason Graham. At 6, the Raiders drafted Ashton Genty. At 7, the Jets took Armand Membu, and then at 8, Tedoroa McMillan to the Panthers, as we discussed before. So what do you like here? What don't you like here?
I like the Membu pick the most. I think for the Jets to, even though I typically don't think taking back-to-back same position is generally something you try and avoid doing and disperse the asset throughout the roster elsewhere. But given what was available to them, I think it makes sense. And if you're trying to win with Justin Fields, you're going to need a great offensive line, a line that can be flexible with his running style. So I like the Membu pick the most of this group. Mason Graham, I think, was fine. I felt like it's a little high for him as a player, but that's my opinion. And McMillan, I think he and GNT should be good starters for both the Raiders and Panthers.
Yeah, I think McMillan, I felt like maybe a little too early. Like, what happened to McMillan slipping to the 20s? Wasn't that a rumor that happened like a week before the draft? Like, and suddenly goes number 8. I thought
Mhm.
like we knew that Dallas loved McMillan, so he wasn't falling past 12. So it's not like they took him like super early. I just thought that like number 8 just seemed a little early for the Panthers, and not that like McMillan's going to be a bad player, but as bad as that defense was horrific last year. They had the worst defense in the NFL. And they were awful against the pass and the run. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't get to the quarterback. It was just they were on like a record-setting pace. I think in the first half of the season, they got a little bit better at the end because DJ Wanham came back from injury, and some of the younger guys got a little bit better. So like at the end of the year, I don't think it was like the worst defense in the NFL. It's probably like 27th or so. But still, it was just awful last year, and I thought they really needed to improve their defense, whether it was with Jalen Walker or Kenneth Grant or Michael Williams or just any of the defensive players available there. I thought would have made more sense than McMillan. If they thought McMillan was the best player available, then I guess it makes sense. But as we said before, we think this was David Tepper meddling again and making sure his pick is going to pan out because, as we said, he was very embarrassed by it. So I thought that was the worst pick in this quartet. The best pick, I agree with you about Membu. I think he's going to be a great tackle. In fact, like other reports saying the Jaguars are going to take Genty at 5. I personally, if I were running the Jaguars, I would have taken Membu at 5. I just think that like with his athleticism that we've only seen from 2 prospects plus wingspan over the years is Trent Williams and Tristan Wirfs. Like that's it. And then there's Membu. Now Walt Campbell had the same athleticism, but his wingspan was shorter. So it was just those 3. And like that's just really amazing company. And just look at the upside with him. And like being able to protect Trevor Lawrence, who hasn't made it through the past 2 seasons, I think that's really important. So that's what I would have done. But I agree with you. I think that like the mistake here wasn't taking the second tackle in a row. The mistake was taking the first tackle in the first place when they could have had Brown.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and I think that if I were running the Raiders, I would have taken Membu over Genty,
Yeah.
because Membu, now you put him at right tackle, you have your bookends with Colton Miller, you can kick DJ Glaze inside to guard, Jackson Powers Johnson at center. Now you have the makings of a really good offensive line, and then you could have come back at pick 37 and had Travion Henderson, and I don't think there's that big a drop off from Genty to Travion Henderson. So, and I like the idea of having that offensive line, that right tackle on a cheap 5-year contract when you're probably about to give Colton Miller a massive extension. So, if I were the Raiders, I would have taken Membu over Genty. But I know Genty was the highest graded player on their board when they came on the clock at 6. So they followed their board.
Yeah.
But to me, I would have gone Membu.
Yeah, taking running backs in the first round is always tricky. I think if it's an elite player like McCaffrey or Barkley, I think you can do it. We saw the Falcons with Bijan and Gibbs, the Lions, and you said this before that you wouldn't put Genty in that group. You would put it in like the next group. And we've seen that like it's funny, and Ben Wassley, who commented here, he had a great breakdown of this. So, like running backs chosen in the first half of the first round versus the second half of the first round. First half of the first round, they've tended to really pan out, but like second half of the first round, there have been a lot of busts. And I'm not saying like Genty belonged in the second half of the first round, but like he's not the same sort of guy who usually goes in the first half of the first round either. So I think he's like kind of in between. Like I thought really he probably should have gone between 12 and 20, like between Dallas and Denver, like somewhere or to one of those teams, like somewhere in between.
Better than a Najee Harris who went in the first round, but not as good as Gibbs or Bijan who went like 8 and 12 in that draft. So that's how I feel about him.
Yes. And this is something you brought up too, Charlie. Pete Carroll's son is the running game coordinator, so
Right.
this nepotism pick for the Raiders.
I mean, I know I asked people there about that, and they were pretty defensive. So
Really
take that for what you will. Did not get received very well.
interesting.
So yeah, so strongly denied, but at the same time, it was almost like a protest too much feel
Mm.
a little bit. But you know, I just yeah, I honestly, I just think that taking that tackle and then getting Henderson in the second round would have made more sense,
Yeah,
for building that offense. And then
yeah,
you're giving a better offensive line for Geno Smith. You know, you gotta factor that in as well. It's not like he runs like Lamar or anything.
right. And and plus Henderson has familiarity with
Chip Kelly's
Chip Kelly.
offense. Yep.
Exactly, Chip Kelly's offense. Even if like Henderson and Judkins are off the board, and obviously Hampton went 22. Caleb Johnson in the third round is not that bad either. Like there's so many
Right.
good running backs you can find in rounds 2 and 3, unless you go like an absolutely special player in the first round. I think you have to pass on them. So yeah, we're in agreement there. And yeah, like it'd be funny if they admitted to the nepotism. Like we just wanted to help out Pete Carroll's son here. Get a job. It'd be hilarious if like they agreed to they acknowledge the nepotism. It's almost like the Lakers taking Bronny in the last draft. Flip side, Damon Martinez was a 7th rounder. Yeah, that was late too. I thought he'd go like round 4.
Yeah.
So yeah, another. I mean, yeah, you can get great value running backs like all throughout the draft. We've seen it year after year. I guarantee there's gonna be a running back taken day 3 this year who's going to be a starter by week 6. It's
Right.
going to happen. It's going to happen. Like it always happens.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go through 9 to 12. The Saints at 9 took Kelvin Banks, the tackle. The 10, the Bears took Colston Loveland, kind of surprising everyone over Tyler Warren. Number 11, the Niners took Michael Williams to the chagrin of Evan Daniel, our Tuesday picks co-host. He actually texted me right when the Niners on the board. He's like, "Come on, take Tyler Warren," even though they have Kittle. He's like, "Take him as the best player." No, they took Michael Williams, and then 12, Tyler Booker, the guard for Dallas. So, what'd you like here? What didn't you like?
I didn't really like the Saints pick of Calvin Banks too much, in part because they've just invested so many assets into that position in recent years with Trevor Penning and Fuaga. And while Penning's been a disappointment, and then you had Ramczyk retire, but these are all 3 first-round picks in not too distant future, and their roster is so bad. I just think they need to spread some of those resources around for young talent elsewhere on the team. So I wasn't as big a fan of them continuing to sink premium assets into that one position. I think Michael Williams could end up being a sneaky good pick for the 49ers. Across from Nick Bosa, he should see one-on-one blocks. I think he has a lot of upside that didn't get displayed last year, in part because of he gets injured in week 1 and battles back and plays well. But I don't think he was necessarily himself all year. So I think he could end up being a really good value there for San Francisco.
Yeah, I actually like the Banks pick. I do get what you're saying about all the resources they invested, but Penning was just awful, and Ramczyk retired, and so like they drafted Fuaga, but he's more of a right tackle, and Banks is a left tackle. So like I get it. I mean, if they thought he was the best player available, I think that's fine, and you have to protect your quarterbacks. They have the Spencer the Silver Snake Rattler there, along with Tyler Shuck. So. We'll see. I do think adding protection. I'm never going to criticize it. Unless like you're passing on like a special player. And I don't. Who else would you have taken at 9 if you're the Saints if you didn't like the Banks pick?
Yeah, I mean, I would have been inclined to go with like a Kenneth Grant or Tyler Warren or Loveland. But yeah, I can see where, you know, if you're thinking long term as well, I mean, beyond Shuck, if he doesn't work out and you're drafting a quarterback next year, at least you already have the tackles in place for that guy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so in addition to that pick, I thought the Cowboys picking Tyler Booker was awful. He was expected to drop into the 20s, and he was someone. And I think this is funny too because you reported that the Colts, who love Tyler Booker, like before the draft, like during the combine, before the draft, they like kind of reconsidered. They're like, oh, we taking a guard, we can get a guard later. We can get one of these elite tight ends instead, and then draft the guard. And then like here with Dallas is the complete opposite. They're like, oh, Tyler Warren fell us. Let's just take a guard. So I thought that was pretty hilarious that like they did the opposite. But like Tyler Booker is like he's such a high character guy and stuff like that. And obviously there's great tape on him. But like the way he tested at the combine, and I'm not talking about the 4. I don't care about the 40. Just like the agility test, which like agility is so predictive of how offensive linemen are going to perform in the NFL. He was like the worst tester in like almost every category in the agility drills, and like that would terrify me. Like, and he could still succeed. I'm not saying he's definitely going to be a bust, but like that is a major red flag to me. So to take him at 12. If I get him like in the 20s, I'm okay with it. But 12, that is way too high, especially with like Tyler Warren, Jalen Walker available. Like there's way too many good players to take a mediocre guard, first round guard prospect at 12. I thought that was the worst pick. I gave it $1 million. You didn't mention it. What did you think about the Booker pick?
Yeah, I felt conflicted in that I loved the player, but I did not. I felt like 12 was too high for him. So I agree with that, and I feel like taking a guard at 12. I mean, I think he's a great player, but I felt like the value with him was more along like the Colts feeling. It just really felt like he should go more in the 20s. And I just feel like it was a bit of a reach.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a reach. I think Loveland a bit of a reach too. I get it because like a lot of people are saying Tyler Warren to them. I don't know. It felt like a luxury pick to the Bears. Like I feel like if the Bears are one player away from winning the Super Bowl, kind of like the Eagles last year when they signed Saquon Barkley. Like they were already a great team and Barkley put them over the top. I feel like if the Bears are already a great team, like a second tight end who could play in the slot, like would put them over the top. I don't think the Bears are there though. Like I feel like they just needed so much help. Like Kenneth Grant, I thought would have made much more sense for them. Or one of the edge rushers, Michael Williams or Jalen Walker or someone like that. I didn't like that pick either. But
I
yeah,
agree. I mean, Kenneth Grant would have made a lot of sense for what they're going up against in the division because he's an elite run defender. So he's going to help you with Gibbs and Montgomery, and he's going to help you against Josh Jacobs. And Aaron Jones ran well for Minnesota last year as well, and they continued to put resources into that offensive line to run the ball even better. So yeah, I agree. John Sanders, he wanted his Sam Laporta and to run 12 personnel with Cole Kmet and create mismatches for Caleb, where if they cover these guys with linebackers, and that's favorable for doing the quick passing game to the tight end. It's a mismatch, and if they cover them with defensive backs, then you run downhill because you have bigger bodies to block at the point of attack. So I can understand that, but I agree with Walt. It felt a little luxurious for a team that still needs a lot at other places.
Oh yeah. And John also asking, besides Hurts, what second round quarterback has been successful in the last decade? Thought Saints should have gone Dart though. Second round quarterbacks last decade. I mean, it's
Derek Carr.
Yeah,
he's a little more than a decade ago. So
yeah,
2014.
yeah. I was just about to mention Andy Dalton, but that's even longer ago. Yes. Outside of that, outside Jalen Hurts, you can't really think of one. Because they mentioned this on the broadcast because like second round quarterback is weird because like you didn't think he was good enough to take in the first round, but like second round is way too early for a backup. So like where exactly like does that fall? And like yeah, maybe sometimes some teams don't have a first round pick, and so they end up taking the second rounder for a quarterback. But It is weird though. But yeah, it doesn't happen very often. Flip side, I looked it up last decade. Drew Lock and Will Levis are the most successful behind Hurts. That's not the greatest endorsement for second round quarterbacks. Although Drew Brees long ago. That was quite a bit ago. That was actually the first mock draft I ever did on the site. It was the Drew Brees Michael Vick mock draft. So that was brings back memories. All right, so we go 13 through 16. Kenneth Grant to the Dolphins. Their defense line is so bad. The Colts, as we discussed before, Tyler Warren going to them. Unfortunately, we had the wrong tight end in our mock drafts. The Falcons taking Jalen Walker, his fall finally ends at 15. And then Walter Nolan, we both had this pick in our mocks. I'm not sure if that's true. I don't know if you did it like recently, but
I didn't. I had Nolan to the 49ers.
Oh, right, okay. You did like a couple of updates before that though. Right. Like toward the end, we both had it from here and there. But yeah, Arizona taking Walter Nolan. I saw your tweet saying you thought Arizona had the best draft. I don't know if that was after day 2 or day 3, but I thought through the second day, I thought their draft was amazing.
Second day, yeah, that's what I posted. Yeah. I thought they did a tremendous job on the first 2 days of getting value and big upside players. Will Johnson, I think in the second round, is a home run. I think Jordan Birch in the third round, another home run with what the skill set, because those guys have legit like top 20 skill sets in terms of just pure football player talent. And then Nolan is a really talented player as well. So I thought they did a great job. I like Kenneth Grant pick quite a bit for Miami. I think that after losing Christian Wilkins, the weakness of that defense was obviously on the inside of the defensive line, and I think this is a plug and play upgrade for them. So I like that pick. None in this group really stood out to me as a pick that I didn't like. I can understand Warren makes sense for the Colts, and Jalen Walker, I think, was a fine pick for Atlanta.
Yeah, I gave every pick here a high grade, so I can't really criticize anything. Walker was a steal at 15, like he was supposed to go at 8. Nolan, there was some buzz about the Panthers, not from legit sources, but like draft analysts projecting like there's some buzz that he would go 8 to the Panthers. It felt like you had him 11 to the Niners, so he was a steal at 16. Arizona loved Walter Nolan. Like we knew that heading into the draft. Our Cardinals source came through there. Earlier in the process, I will say this: they were considering, which is funny because they took in the second round, Will Johnson or Willie Johnson, as you might want to call him. They liked him the most. But then the injury happened, and that pushed them down, and they got him in the second round, as you said. That was outstanding. I agree. Through 2 days, they were great. At third day, they made a couple of picks I wasn't a fan of, but overall, Arizona did a great job. And yeah, Miami's. I briefly mentioned this. Miami's defensive line. I was looking at it, heading preparing my final mock draft and stuff, and I was just looking at every depth chart. I was looking at Miami's defensive line. I'm like, what is this? They have Zach Seiler, and it's like nothing else. Like these guys are all horrible. I'm like, man, they have to take a defensive line early. I did have Kenneth Grant going to them in my mock draft, like the third to last mock draft, and then I switched out. Unfortunately, I went to Jade Barron. But yeah, I mean, Kenneth Grant just made a lot of sense. So I loved all these picks here, so nothing to criticize. We could go. Well, we'll have stuff to criticize here for sure. At least I will. 17 through 20, the Bengals take Shamar Stewart, defensive end. Seahawks at 18 take Gray Zabel. 19, the Buccaneers take Emeka Egbuka. And the 20, the Broncos take cornerback Jade Barron. So I personally hated 2 of these picks. I'm kind of curious. Well, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on these 4 picks.
Yeah, none of these 4 really, I really think are great picks. I think Zabel probably makes the most logical sense among them because the interior of the Seahawks offensive line was so bad, and he definitely is plug and play upgrade, and he can play guard or center. And then obviously he could kick out to tackle, say if they had an injury to the starters, he could be an emergency guy there. So I think that flexibility is really nice for them for with improving the interior of the line. Um, I can understand the Shamar Stewart one. To me, uh, I just guys that have that lack of production in college are kind of scary. I wasn't a big fan of Barron as a player. I didn't understand that pick as much over some of the other talent that was there for Denver. And for Tampa Bay, I like Igbuka as a player, but I just what I've thought about it a lot, and I'm doing Tampa radio tomorrow morning early, and I feel that he's going to be a really good player, have a solid career, kind of like Chris Godwin, Hines Ward, kind of potential wide receiver. However, in thinking about it, I just question, does this pick really make their team better? Because they're already strong at receiver. And yet, the other two, Evans and Chris Godwin, will age out in the next few years, and Ibuka will be in place. But I just don't see how, in the short term, this really helps them with closing the gap with a team like Philadelphia. I think it just kind of treads water, and Philadelphia, who you're going to have to get past to get to the Super Bowl, got better. So to me, I don't have a problem with the player, but I'm just not as convinced that it really helps them with challenging in the NFC.
Let's say, forget Philly. I think Atlanta. Like I thought this draft put Tampa behind Atlanta in the NFC South. I love what the Falcons did. Well, we'll get to their second pick, but just adding two very talented edge rushers, that you asked doesn't make their team better. Like Atlanta made their team better in the first round. I don't think there's any question about that.
Absolutely. No
Tampa
doubt
on the
about it.
Yeah, Tampa on the other hand, they drafted their number 4 receiver. Now maybe he moves up the depth chart, but like he's not passing Mike Evans this year. He's not passing Chris Godwin this year if he's healthy. And then there's Jalen McMillan, who had a great rookie year. Not so much in the first half of the year. The second half of the year, he really took off. And so where does Igbuka fall in? Like, he's just a rookie, and eventually he could be a really good player. But like in 2025, he's the number 4 receiver unless there are injuries. This reminds me a lot of what the Jets did last year, where they had their top 2 tackles set and they drafted Olu Fashanu instead of Brock Bowers. Like Brock Bowers would have made their team better in a year where everyone is expecting them to compete for the Super Bowl. And I say everyone just kind of joking, but like they were considered a playoff caliber team by many. And Fashanu wasn't starting to start the year, and eventually he did play because there were injuries. But like that was the thing. Like if there were no injuries, he never would have seen the field. This is the same thing with Ibuka. Yeah, if Evans or Godwin goes down, he's going to see the field. But like this is not going to make the team better if there are no injuries at all. And so like a player like Jihad Campbell or one of the edge rushers who fell, like that would have made Tampa much better. But it did, like this pick does not. And so in a divisional race where the Falcons and Buccaneers were barely separated at all last year, it took like the Falcons kind of falling apart at the seams last year for Tampa to win the division. I think this year, right now, if I were to handicap it, I say Atlanta's the favorite to win the division now. And I went into this draft thinking like, okay, Tampa probably has like a 52-48 edge. Like that's how close it is. Coming out of the draft, I think Atlanta is like 55-45 or maybe even 60-40 right now. Just because Tampa did not improve the team, and Atlanta drafted 2 players to improve the team in the first round. So, yeah, I thought this is a truly awful pick by the Buccaneers. Just made absolute no sense. If they were a rebuilding team, yes, it would have made sense because he's going to be good down the road. But for a team that's expected to win the division, and by their fans at least, win the division, and if you're in the playoffs, you never know what can happen. This does not help them at all. So I thought that was an awful pick, and it kind of like overshadowed the other horrible pick in this quartet, which is the Bengals pick. And this is I wrote this in the team grades. I quoted a famous person who said, "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on shame. You can't get fooled again." Like this is the Bengals. The Bengals did this a few years ago with Myles Murphy. They took a guy who had no production but super great athleticism. They thought they can get the most out of them, and they didn't. He was a huge loss for them. And they did the same thing with Shamar Stewart, the guy who had 4.5 sacks in college, but amazing athleticism. I'm utterly shocked. Well, it's the Bengals, so maybe I shouldn't be. But like, I'm just shocked that they just made the same mistake. Like, yeah, you can make a mistake, but like the big mistake is doing it again, and they did it again. They just took the same player. So like, I thought this is a Millen grade. Very close to a Millen grade. I gave it a D just because there is some upside and it potentially fills a need. And like, I thought the Tampa pick was worse, but man, this is.
I think the Bengals really blew it passing on Malachi Starks and letting him fall to the Ravens, because that team has not been the same since Jesse Bates left. So Starks would have been a plug-and-play starter and upgrade, and he's a high-character individual and team leader. I think that adding that presence as well in the huddle on the defense would have helped the other players on that defense, along with giving them that deep center fielder to lock down that part of the field. He would have been an asset for defending Lamar Jackson with the way he can cover ground and tackle. So I think the Bengals, really made a mistake in passing on Starks. Starks would have been I think a home run pick for them.
Yeah, 100%. And not just like passing on a great prospect. They let that prospect fall to an arch rival. So yeah, good luck beating Baltimore this year. I think the Ravens, I thought they had the best draft class in this entire draft. Bengals are awful. Buccaneers. Pollyanna says it does. Evans and Godwin will be washed up before you know it. No, I look, that's true. But we're talking about this year. Like this, if this were a rebuilding team, then yes, this pick would make a lot of sense. But they're trying to win this year. This is their goal. Like they're the betting favorites to win the division. And if you get into the playoffs, anything could happen. We saw it with Eli Manning in 2007. Like anything could happen.
Is the objective to win the Super Bowl, or is the objective to build for the long term each draft? Exactly. At some point you want to try and win now, and you want to win while you have Evans playing at a high level, because Igbuka standing on the sideline watching Evans, and then having a defense that can get gashed and give up 500 yards to Kirk Cousins, that's not helping you win. So I definitely think that, if you're trying to win now, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be trying to win now, it would have made sense to help that front seven on defense.
Yeah, they've spent way too much money on their veterans to not win now. I mean, they paid Mayfield, they paid Evans, they re-signed Godwin. Like they clearly think they can win with this group. And then they take someone for the future. Like I said, this is Jets taking Fashanu all over again. It just didn't make sense for them. This does not make sense for Tampa. All right. I did like the Zabel pick, by the way. I thought the best pick in this group. Although I did like Barron. I think this one we'll disagree on. Because I strongly strongly remember the Monday night shootout they had with Jameis Winston, where they couldn't stop Winston at all. And I remember thinking, like, I know they were down Riley Moss in that game, but still, like, their secondary was awful in that game. And I outside of Surtain, obviously, and like I really think that they needed just the pass defense. And I guess the disagreement is on like the Barron as a prospect, but like I knew that like Miami was at least considering Barron at 13, so I thought that maybe 20 was a good value. But I mean, you could be right, like maybe he's not a good prospect. Let's see. Bagger says, blindly drafting BPA is stupid. Take the guy that gives you the best improvement at the position. Instead of taking 8 to replace the 5, I'd much rather take a 7 to replace the 2. Yeah, look, I agree. I think it's like not best player available, but like best player available who makes sense for you. That's how I've always approached it. Yeah.
You're building your team. It's team building. It's not, I mean, if the best player on the board for the Lions at 28, their highest graded player was Travion Henderson or Quinshon Judkins, would it make sense for them to take that best player available when that guy's not going to play over Montgomery and Gibbs? Right. No, it would not make sense to go BPA there. So you have to have some reason, with your roster and building a team and putting assets at different places, and upgrading your talent. So I agree with you. It can't just be pure BPA. You have to factor in best player available at a few different spots, at two or three different positions, in my opinion.
Yeah, Bagley says, I don't think Egbuka's BPA anyway. Not even the best receiver available. Plus, he's redundant with what you already have. Golden and even Burden would have been a better complement. Yeah, I mean, look, people had Golden over Egbuka too. So, and I know that, to quote, beauty is in the eye of the holder. Like, maybe Tampa just had him higher than Golden, which is obviously they did. But, like, that could be fair. But still, like, I agree. I don't know if he was the best player available. But speaking of Golden, he's in this next group. 21 Steelers taking Derek Harmon, crushing the hopes and dreams of Mel Kiper. 22, the Chargers drafting Omarion Hampton. 23, Packers taking Matthew Golden, as we mentioned. And then at 24, the Vikings drafting Donovan Jackson. So what did you think about this group?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite pick of the group, I mean, none of them really like get me super excited, but I don't think any of them are terrible either. So, I would say Golden I probably like the most if I have to pick one because I think he could be helpful to Jordan Love and really improve their ability to stretch defenses vertically and help open things up for Josh Jacobs and other receivers underneath. So I would say I like that pick the most of this group. Um, I didn't really like the Donovan Jackson pick for the Vikings. I think he'll be a fine starter, but I feel like you already just spent heavy on a guard and you spent heavy on a center, and you could have gotten, another guard later in the draft that could come in and compete for that other guard spot. But I just felt like the defense really could have used more talent, especially at corner or safety. You had Malachi Starks there. That would have been a great replacement for Harrison Smith in the long term. You had good corners as well, like Maxwell Harrison and Will Johnson. And I think those guys would have been an upgrade for them. Especially with helping to defend Detroit and Green Bay, and then of course with the passing attack the Bears are attempting to build. So I just felt like they could have done more to help their team and help their defense than taking a guard at 24.
Okay. John says, I laugh when GM say they took the best player available, but all just happened to be here on the top 30 visits. This is true. And Mike says, Walt's draft strategies is BPA, TM, SFY. Yes, exactly. Best player available that makes sense for you. Yes, that's what you should do. I don't think it's going to catch on, though. It doesn't seem like a very catchy acronym. All right, so for this four, I think my favorite was, I like the Golden pick a lot, too. First of all, that gives them something they haven't had. Like the Packers have like a bunch of number 2 and number 3 receivers. They didn't have a number 1. Golden, I don't know. We'll see if he can be number 1, but he does have at least like number 1 speed. He didn't have the number 1 production in Texas. He had a great stretch last year for a few games, but like overall, he just didn't throughout his collegiate career. But he did show that potential when Bond got hurt, and then here, I think that like giving the Packers a speed threat, which they don't have outside of Watson, and what Watson's may miss in all of 2025, that will definitely help them this year, because when Watson went down last year, that just changed the offense completely. Like their offense fell apart, and we saw it last year too, or at least the year before too. When Watson was out in 2023, the Packers couldn't do anything offensively. When he was in, they had their explosive games, like that win at Detroit on Thanksgiving. So I think having a healthier version of Watson who's better, potentially better, I think it was a great move for them. And then the Steelers taking Derek Harmon, very athletic guy on the defensive line, ton of upside. It's a good player. I think that like his injuries might be the only question mark here, but I'm old enough to remember Derek Stingley entering the NFL, and like everyone worried about his injuries, and lo and behold, he played every single game last year. So I think these injuries can come and go, unless it's like something that like is definitely degenerative, like Will Johnson's knee, for example. But like more so, this is a good move not taking Shedeur Sanders to 21, as everyone projected. And like, yeah, we did get to hear the Mel Kiper meltdown. I don't know if you got to watch it. I didn't watch it live. I watched NFL Network, but like everyone in the chat during our show on Thursday night was telling me to watch it. And so I looked it up on YouTube. It was pretty hilarious. It's like after every pick is like, this is a good pick or this is a bad pick, but they should have taken Shedeur like after every pick. This is kind of nuts. But so I Steelers and Packers for me here. And then I think the worst pick here is for the Chargers, taking a running back. Like we talked about running backs in the second half of the first round, usually a bad omen for that. And like, I feel like they could have gotten the running back in the second round or third round. Like, you know, the Chargers, like I know Jim Harbaugh is obsessed with running the ball, but like, I don't know, take maybe a player who can, is just gives you better position of value than a running back at 22. That's my take on it. I like Hampton, but like, I don't think the drop off from Hampton to a second or third round pick is that crazy. Whereas like you could take who else could they take in here? Let's look. Like Golden would have made sense for them. Donovan Jackson. James Pierce, because Joey Bosa's gone. Like, why not go after him? Right. They don't need a safety, but like Malachi Starks is best player available.
Tyreek Williams would have been an upgrade for them on the inside of the D line. I think. Charlie Campbell would have upgraded the middle of the defense. So and Hairston, I think a lot of those guys would have been better picks than Hampton.
Exactly. Yeah. That's even though I give it a B, I think like on second thought I should have given this like a C+ or something, or a C. I did like Hampton, and part of it was like I expect them to go 20 to Denver, so I was like, oh, 22, they got a good value. But like the more I think about it, like the less I like the pick. So that's where I stand here. But yeah, all right. So we can move on to the next four, the penultimate four here. So the Giants traded up. We finally had two teams trade up. The Giants traded up for Jackson Dart. The Falcons traded up for James Pierce, or I should say they gave up they didn't really trade up. They gave next year's first round to get James Pierce. So they basically drafted ahead. This is their 2026 first round pick is James Pierce. 2020 the 27th pick was Malachi Starks, and then the Lions took Tyreek Williams at 28. So what do you think about this one?
Yeah, this group, I like the James Pierce pick for Atlanta. First of all, I think he could be a stud pass rusher for them, and he really gives them something they just haven't had. And his tape, Abdul Carter had a great season last year, but if you consider over the past two seasons, I mean, Pierce is right there in terms of consistency of putting pressure on the quarterback. So I think we know he slid because of the character stuff. If he didn't have character concerns, he would have gone top 16 for sure. So I like that pick for Atlanta, and I do think Raheem Morris is a great coach for him. From just knowing Raheem when I was a beat writer, covering him in the teams here in Tampa, he is great at working the locker room and taking guys who are rough around the edges and getting them to buy into the team and focus on football. So I think he's a great coach to have for James Pierce. I think other coaches wouldn't have been a great fit, but Raheem is a great fit for James Pierce. And James Pierce, it's not like he's a criminal. I think from what I was told by other team people, a lot of it is they're concerned about him kind of moving on from bad influences from where he grew up in Charlotte in a rough area. So that's more of the concern as opposed to him personally. They're just worried he could be wrong place, wrong time because he has friends who could get him in that situation. So that's the big concern there. And from what some teams feel. Other teams felt, no, we're just taking him off our board. So there's debate there. I love the Starks pick for the Ravens. They do it again. I just don't understand how them and the Eagles I get tired of hearing the media talk about it, but it's just true. I mean, it just happened again where both of these teams have ridiculous values just fall into their lap. I like Tyreek Williams as a player. I do feel this one a little bit like Igbuka with Tampa Bay, where I think Tyleik Williams will be a really good uh, combo interior defender with Aleem McNeil, a long-term replacement for DJ Reader, who's in the last year of his contract. And maybe they bring him back and they have a trio that they can rotate and they'll be really tough on the inside. I think that's but I do feel like Tampa Bay, does this pick really narrow the gap to Philadelphia? So so that's kind of, is it really making their team different from what it was? So now you can say with the Lions, injuries obviously destroyed that season. So there's just, you can't, who would, if Hutchinson and McNeil and Carlton Davis hadn't gotten hurt, they easily could have beaten Washington and had a slugfest with Philly to go to the Super Bowl. So, without those guys, but who knows? So I kind of had mixed feelings on the Lions pick there. And I did not like the Jackson Dart pick for the Giants. I was not, I did not believe in him as a first round quarterback. I think that meltdown performance against Florida, when everything was on the line for Ole Miss to get into the college football playoff, and he had an interception fest to an inferior opponent, was very telling and damning. I think it really also shone a light. He had a lot of turnover-worthy plays that he got away with. He has some gunslinger to him, but I think he has to improve the decision making and ball security. He won't have Lane Kiffin in that system to protect him in the NFL like it did in college and produced big numbers for him and Matt Corral and others who've been in it. So I'm just not a believer in Jackson Dart panning out. I think he's kind of like maybe a Zach Wilson 2.0 or a better version of Gardner Minshew. So I feel like the Giants were desperate. I know some in the media have really been hyping their draft up, but I'll believe it when I see it with Dart being a really good NFL starter.
Yeah, I don't see it either with him. This is like almost like Drew Lock to me, or Paxton Lynch, like late, like first round, or could have gone second round guys, like or like a Jimmy Clausen almost, because like Jimmy Clausen had Charlie Weiss coaching him up in Notre Dame, and like Jackson Dart had Lane Kiffin coaching him up, and so like you're actually like you're getting them at their best. Like this is not like a raw prospect who is just gonna like emerge. Like this is like a quarterback who's like seasoned, like coached up extremely well. And then there's a good chance he's going to have like lesser coaching in the NFL. Like the Giants don't strike me as a team that has great coaching, so it's actually going to be a coaching downgrade. We're talking like comparatively, like Lane Kiffin versus the rest of the college football versus Dable versus the rest of the NFL. Like so I don't like this pick at all. I don't know why they traded up. Like felt like they could have maybe gotten him at 34 anyway.
Right.
Like, so don't give
Who
up.
was going to take him? Who was going to take? I mean, I guess
the
they
Browns,
thought
maybe?
the Rams. Yeah, the Browns or the Rams, or maybe they thought the Saints would trade up. But yeah, I mean, you probably could have waited and tried to do the trade up in the 30-32 range, or something like that.
Exactly. They didn't need to make this big of a jump. So yeah, they gave up 2/3 for it, which is like not like the end of the world, but like still too much for Jackson Dart. And then the other pick I didn't like was Tyleik Williams. I agree with what you said at the end. Like it doesn't make the team better right away. And I just thought a little of a reach here. I had him in the mid-second round. It felt like they like almost panicked when and they usually draft well, so it's kind of like weird for this regime. But like when Donovan Jackson went off the board and Tyler Booker was gone too, like suddenly all the guards are gone, and so it's like, okay, what do we do here? Do we draft, like which second round prospect do we draft here? And if you're gonna reach, I think this is the year to do it, just because like there aren't that many great prospects this year. But it just felt like like there's so many like good ones out here, like Harrison, Charlie Campbell, like you could have taken some of them. I know they didn't need those positions, but like you could have gotten better players, I thought. So Nick Amonawari, for example, in the second round. So I thought they could have just drafted better players. Agree completely on Malachi Starks, especially the best value pick in the first round of this draft, and then the Falcons with James Pierce. I know people hated that they traded the first round pick for next year, but like they didn't trade. They didn't. Here's the difference between this and the Jaguars pick. The Jaguars used 2 first round picks to get Travis Hunter. They used the number 5 this year, and they used next year's first rounder. The Falcons only used 1 first rounder to get James Pierce. They used next year's first rounder. So they're basically taking their 2026 first round pick now, which I think makes sense because you have Michael Penix on a rookie deal. Penix looked good at the end of last year, albeit in only 3 games, but still, he looked good, a lot better than Kirk Cousins. And if you think he's the real deal, and like that's, you draft him 8th overall, so you have to think that. Like, why not give him all the pieces ready to win now? They have a good offensive line. They have at least one good receiver. We'll see what happens, with Kyle Pitts and stuff like that. But they have a great running game, and they have some really good pieces on defense. But their pass rush was very sketchy. So they drafted Jalen Walker and James Pierce, and like they need just one of them to hit. Like one of them hits this year and is productive as a pass rusher. Like their defense is going to be good, and they're going to be a team to be reckoned with. Like I think that they're a legit Super Bowl contender. I know Tom, who was our guest host on Saturday. He already liked them to win the Super Bowl at like a long shot, like 60-1 or something, whatever they were. And like now, we'll talk to him on Saturday, but now I'd have to feel that he feels stronger about it now. So yeah, I love what Atlanta did. I thought they had a great draft. So yeah, Falcons, Ravens, the winners here. The bird teams, as Tom likes to call it, whereas the other teams did not do so well here. All right, so let's. Dable should do a good job with him. Yeah, maybe we'll see. I don't know if Dable's gonna be around that long. That's like it's the bad thing here. That's like the weird thing about this regime taking a quarterback is because they're probably gonna be gone after this year, unless like they're great right away. I was like, I thought the Giants might pass on all the quarterbacks because like they have a lame duck regime. So like, well, I don't know. It probably came from the owner or something to take a quarterback. That's my guess, but we'll see. All right, so the final 4 here. The Redskins drafting Josh Connerly, 29 guard tackle. Bills taking Maxwell Hairston at 30 to upgrade the cornerbacks. Eagles steal Jihad Campbell, linebacker / edge at 31, and then Josh Simmons at tackle for the Chiefs, 32. So what did you think about this final group?
Well, I love the Jihad Campbell pick. I think that makes the Eagles a better football team than they were going into the draft because that's going to make them more capable if they play the Lions in the playoffs of defending David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs by having Jihad Campbell. It's going to make them more capable of defending Jaden Daniels next season, who could be even better now that he has a year of NFL experience. So it makes their defense better, and it makes their team better for going against the top teams in their conference to get back to the Super Bowl. So I love that pick for Philadelphia. I think it was brilliant move by them. I thought Maxwell Harrison, fine pick for Buffalo. I think Josh Simmons was a fine pick for the Chiefs. Was not a big fan of the Connerly pick to Washington. And the reason for that is just from watching him, even, on tape, the biggest issue with him was just an inability to anchor. Really, I think physical, strong bull rushers and heavy, strong defenders are going to give him problems. That was clear on tape from last season. And then Senior Bowl, you could see it where even a smaller, undersized guy like Mike Green was overpowering him. So if he has issues with that, what is Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis going to do to him? So I just do not like how he matches up with blocking the biggest problems that Washington will have on their schedule for years to come here. So I felt like he's a finesse blocker. Granted, I understand that fits Kingsbury's system. But I think it's going to be problematic when they're going against their biggest rivals and their biggest hurdle to getting to the Super Bowl.
For me, I mean, I like these picks. You do make a good point about Connerly. We'll see. I mean, I think guard might be problematic for him, but if he plays the right tackle, I think that makes more sense. But I thought the other three picks are great. Like the Bills getting Harrison. I felt like so tilted by this pick because I had the Bills taking Harrison more than any other player, and then like I changed it at the end. I changed it to Izaraco at the end. So I should have just stuck with Harrison. No, I thought that was a great pick to help their corners, and I love what the Bills did overall because they drafted a bunch of defensive linemen. I think like I have a feeling they watched the Super Bowl and like what the Eagles did, and they're like, maybe this is the trick. Maybe we should get as much pressure on Mahomes as possible. So they signed Joey Bosa. They got two defensive linemen who can get to the quarterback, and then they got a third defensive lineman who could stop the run in Dean Walker. So I love what the Bills did. The Chiefs getting a tackle, we can't complain about that. Torn patella tendon is terrifying, but if Simmons can overcome that, then like they're going to have a franchise left tackle for a long time. So that's only going to help Mahomes out. But yeah, I mean, the Eagles pick of Jihad Campbell, who could have easily gone to 15. If he went 15, I would grade that as like a B plus. If he went to 19, I'll grade it as an A. There's no reason he should have fallen this far. I think that they can get from him what they had with Hassan Reddick, whereas like Reddick could rush the passer on the edge, or he could play linebacker. Like he could do anything. I think this is the same sort of player. And so getting him at 31, just absolute steal for the Eagles. So again, once again, as you mentioned, the Ravens Eagles get it. Like how this happened? They just got their best player available. So or at least best player available who makes sense for them. So we're in agreement there. We had a couple of comments here before we head out. Bagman says for the Falcons pick, it's the converse of the subtract one round for next year's pick thing. Next year's first is worth this year's second. So basically, they just gave up a third. I mean, I like people were really complaining about it, and I'm like, it'd be different if they give up two firsts like the Jaguars did. They only used one first to draft Pierce, which made a lot more sense. Some Papa Source says, any good offensive or defensive rookie of the year bets? I'm eyeing Omarion Hampton 16-1. I have not looked yet, and I guarantee this is going to be something we look with Tom on Saturdays. So you can definitely check that out there. I mean, I could put on the screen here like very quickly and give my quick thoughts, but I haven't looked at it yet, and I will by Saturday because Tom and I will be talking about it for sure. But let me it's on the screen now, I believe, if you guys can see it. So let me hide this comment. Gentis plus 270, Cam Ward's plus 380, Travis Hunter's plus 750, and then Tedero McMillan plus 950, and then onward we have Hampton here at 14-1, not 16-1 as you mentioned. But yeah, I mean, again, I'll have to think about it. I'm sure you can find like a decent value, like for example, RJ Harvey, potentially Denver starting running back at 30-1. Now he's granted he's not like guaranteed to start, but like Denver's running back core is so bad that he might get a chance to do it. So 30-1 seems pretty good. Charlie, I don't know if you like saw anything here.
I like RJ Harvey. I like the Hampton one, and I like Tet McMillan because I think they're going to force feed him the ball as well to try and make things look good for them with him and Bryce Young. So I could see him, putting up some numbers for Carolina because of that. So those are the three that kind of jumped out to me.
Caleb Johnson jumps out to me too. Tyler, Warren on the Steelers is someone who gets injured a lot. So I think that like he might get a chance to start there. Jalen Warren, not Tyler Warren. It'd be funny. Tyler Warren was starting running back for the Steelers, but no, Jalen Warren. He tends to get hurt often, so I think Caleb Johnson could get the running back role there. Obviously, Gentis should be the favorite because he's going to get the carries right away. Like there's really no one else in the Raiders' backfield. So I think deservedly he's the favorite. But if you're looking for values, I'm sure we can find something. I guarantee Tom has looked through this and has some bets for me. So we'll get more into depth on this on Saturday. Beck is 75-1 long shot. What do you think about that? Where's Jack
I
Beck
wouldn't
is
put money down on that. I
no, you don't
wouldn't.
like it.
No. I mean I obviously those odds are kick ass, but I mean I just I don't know. I don't see how I just think he's could be a solid number 2 or 3 in the NFL, but I just don't see how he's gonna put up the numbers to win the, offensive rookie over the year over guys like Genty or Hampton or RJ Harvey.
Yeah.
RJ Harvey is a sneaky good one. Sean Payton's probably gonna run the ball like a lot with him.
Yeah, he shouldn't be 30-1. He should be like 20-1. I don't know about this number. Like, he should definitely be higher than Tyler Shuck, for example, like who's not guaranteed to start. Or Shedeur Sanders at 25-1. Like, he's right now he's the fourth quarterback on the roster, so we'll see. I guarantee some people are going to bet that though. Maybe Clarence Hill will bet that. I've had a lot of fun making fun of him. DraftKings is better odds. Okay, good to know. Good to know. We'll look at DraftKings on Saturday. Scadaboo seems like a better bet than Beck. He's 100-1 and could start at least. I mean, they've Tyron Tracy there, so I don't necessarily see that happening. Like, it feels like they have a pretty stacked running back group there with Devin Singletary and Tyron Tracy. So like it's gonna be pretty tough. I don't know. I
And
came
the
back.
thing with Yeah, the
There you go.
thing that I always think of for running backs with fantasy as well, if you follow it closely, but really kind of see the quotes and what teams coaches are saying about these guys in training camp and preseason in terms of how well they're picking up pass protection and how well they know the playbook, because that's the biggest thing that can can cause a rookie running back not to see the field, is if the coaches don't trust him, that the quarterback can't audible to a blitz protection and he's going to blow the protection and get the quarterback hit. They aren't going to trust him to be on the field as much.
Right.
So it's going to really, they'll could for a Scadaboo kind of guy that could be like, well, we trust Motor Singletary more than Blitz Pro. So that's the thing to kind of, I think, really keep an eye on when it comes to a rookie running back.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. So, look, I mean, we'll have better intel as we get closer to training camp and then into training camp, of course. So we'll definitely have some good bets here. And like I said, I guarantee Tom has looked at this already, so I'm sure he'll have some potential bets for us on Saturday. But yeah, I mean that I feel like that's it. I feel bad that Flip just came back and like we have to say goodbye. The 101 is appealing though. Yeah, 101. What's that? Who's that quote? There's a quote from it was from The Office. I can't remember. I don't know if it was Michael Scott or something. But he was like, if you give me 150-1 on anything, you have to take it or something. It's like I can't remember who exactly said it. It might have been Michael Scott, but it was that quote. It kind of reminds me of that. Running back hasn't won since Barkley. That's kind of nuts. But we've had some great quarterbacks though. That's been the issue. Like last 2 years we had Jaden Daniels and then C.J. Stroud. Like unless Cam Ward does it, like there's not going to be a quarterback who does it this year. Cam Ward's not a bad option, just blindly, but the number is not great. So, Kevin says Kevin, yeah, Kevin Malone, yeah, he's the one who said it. That's one of my favorite quotes on the show. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Like I said, we'll be back. We'll be back every day this week. Wednesday with Kenny. So we're going to break down the fantasy perspective of these rookies. Thursday, we'll have another show. And then Saturday with Tom. Looking forward to all that. If I get 150-1 on Don Gabriel, I'm still not taking it. Yeah, you should not. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Charlie, anything before we head out here?
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna be ramping up the why the slides, why undrafted. So you guys feel free to email me players you'd like me to look into for that, and try and just do as many as I can as we kind of start on towards our preseason writing at the same time, and get a bunch of those cranked out here through May. So anyone you guys are interested in, just let me know, and then of course. We'll also be looking ahead and starting the next draft class here in the months to come. We have the updated 2026 rankings from this spring up as well already. So that's so plenty of stuff to check out. But we'll have why undrafted, why the slide rolling out here a lot.
Yes, and Bagley says, why the undrafted on Willie Johnson? Definitely looking forward to seeing that. Grok will be confused, I guarantee it. All right, guys, besides Shedeur, who really fell that far, I mean, Will Johnson, people thought he'd go top 5 or top 10, maybe lower as the draft came closer, but he's definitely someone who fell. Will Howard, I thought people thought like 3rd round or something. He went 6th, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd say some others that kind of jumped out to me, like Nicky Manwari, Luther Burden. There was a lot of mocks with Izaraku going in the 1st round. Others like Elijah Arroyo and Mike Green and Trey Amos went at the end of the 2nd round. He was getting mocked in the 1st.
Siobhan Ravel,
Yeah,
maybe.
Siobhan Ravel, yep, another one. So there's a lot of guys I think that are interesting to dig into.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I always say this. I love the Why the Slide series. So we're gonna have the Shedeur Sanders article up tomorrow morning or tonight, depending on what time zone you're in. So yeah, check that out and everything. And like I said, we'll be back all week with shows. So once again, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. Thank you so much, Charlie, for coming on all these Tuesdays leading up to the draft and also after the draft. We'll have to have you on and maybe in a few weeks to do a 2026 NFL mock draft to get started for next April. So looking forward to that. And yeah, everyone, like I said, thank you so much for watching, and we'll be back tomorrow, and I will talk to you then.